Hey everyone, it's Dina here from Aux in Spain. Welcome to my overview video for the visa process for US citizens. First of all, I want to say congratulations because if you're here, more likely than not, you received your placement to teach English in Spain. So, congrats, you made it, you're well on your way. I know that it can seem a little overwhelming, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of steps to take, but you know what? You got this. And so many people have done it before you. You'll be able to get through it, no problem. I did create this video because I hope that it helps you along your way. You know, there's a lot of information out there, and so I wanted to put it together into one little video just to kind of put it all in one location for you. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, today we will be talking about what visa you will need, where you should apply, when you should apply, the application process, the documents that you will need, that infamous background check, how to fill out the visa application, as well as some quick tips. These are things that I've learned. I've done the process 3 or 4 times now from the US, and so, I've learned a lot along the way, and hopefully these tips will be helpful to you. But first, as always, a disclaimer. The following information, I've, updated it for the 2024-2025 school year. However, always, always, always be sure to directly consult your consulate's website for any recent changes that have occurred. Again, like I said, this is information that I've found online and that I've gathered, and I've done my best to make sure that it's up to date and accurate. However, things change rapidly, and so you want to make sure that you're always going straight to your consulate's website for the latest information. All right, disclaimer done. Let's get started. What visa will you need? You will need the long stay student visa. This is for stays of over 180 days, so you will be following this process. And where should you apply? Okay, now this depends on your driver's license, state ID, or student ID. Okay, so in other words, you apply where you hold residency and you have to demonstrate that through either one of those 3 identifications, and they have to be valid. What I mean by that, for example, is the student ID. I know, my student ID didn't have an expiration date on it, but maybe some do. So if you're trying to apply through a consulate where you're studying, but your student ID has an expiration date and it's expired, then chances are they're not going to accept it. So you want to make sure that your ID, whichever form you choose, whether it's driver's license, state, or student, is valid. And here I have for you the consulates as well as their corresponding states. So for example, if you're in if you're in Maine, Mass, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, you're going to apply to the Boston consulate. So I'm going to leave that here. Feel free to pause the video so you can look up your state and which consulate that you need to apply to. Just a note here for Los Angeles and the San Francisco consulates, it depends on the county. So make sure that you're paying close attention to the county that you live in and which consulate, whether it's the LA or the San Fran consulate that you need to apply to. The San Fran consulate is on this following slide. So here it is. Again, feel free to pause the video and find your state and your corresponding consulate. All right, here we go. When should you apply? So once you have a confirmed teaching placement, that means plaza aceptada, specifically for the NALCAP applicants, then you are going to want to start gathering your documents, or if it is the month of June. So for those folk who have applied later, sometimes maybe you're not going to get your placement until maybe early June, mid-June. So as soon as it's the month of June, you want to start gathering those documents because they do take, specifically the background check, takes a really long time. So you just want to make sure that you're kind of keeping track of your timelines and that you get everything that you need in time. Now, the application process, pretty straightforward, right? You're going to gather all of your documents, then you request your visa appointment. So last year when I did this in 2023, I was told by my program to not request a visa appointment until I actually had all of my documents in hand. Now, while this is great in theory and it makes sense in theory, I kind of wish that I had requested a visa appointment a little bit sooner, because then what happened is that I had all my documents and I still had to wait another 2 weeks before my visa appointment because I had waited until I had all my documents to request that visa appointment. You do want to be careful here. I think they argue that you do that so that you don't get a visa appointment before you actually have all of your documents in hand. So this is where organization and timing are really crucial. So for me, for example, I was just waiting on my background check, that infamous background check. I was just waiting on that background check. But I had a tracking number and I knew when it was being shipped back to me. And so I think that I could have requested a visa appointment when I knew that my background check was being shipped back to me, if that makes sense. And so this way I could have got my visa appointment a little bit earlier. Why does this matter? Well, because I was on crunch time because I had visa issues, I had passport issues, and so it kind of delayed me quite a bit in terms of scheduling my visa appointment. And I didn't have my visa appointment or my visa in hand until 3 weeks before I was set to leave. And so you can imagine this was very, very stressful for me. And so that's why I suggest, make sure you're getting tracking numbers on all of your documents. And perhaps what you want to do is when you know that that final document is on its way to you and it'll get to you within a few days' time, maybe then email your consulate or, request your visa appointment in whichever way they accept requests for visa appointments. But again, this depends on your consulate. Summer season is peak season, so I don't think that there's a high probability of you requesting a visa appointment and getting it the day after, but you never know. So this is, again, why you want to kind of tread carefully here, especially if you're applying for your visa closer to your leave date. All right, next step, submit your paperwork at your visa appointment. Important note here, some paperwork will be returned to you and you're going to need this for the TA process in Spain. So make sure you're holding on to that paperwork. Then you're going to pick up or receive your visa via mail. This depends on your consulate and what they offer and your choice. And then finally, you can book your ticket to Spain. You don't want to book your ticket until you have your visa in hand. I'll get to that later in the tip section, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. All right, you don't want to book your ticket until you have your visa in your hand. All right, let's keep going. So what documents will you need? I've got a handy dandy checklist here. Your passport and photocopy must be valid for 6 months after May 31st of the following year or June 30th for those of you who are coming to Madrid to teach. Okay, this is super important. So check your passport expiration date right now. You want to make sure it's valid for 6 months after May 31st or June 30th. This is what I found on the Travel US State Gov website. If you want to double check and make sure nothing's changed, do so. All right, your driver's license, state ID, your valid student ID, 1 to 2 passport photos. They only took 1 from me, but I always bring extra just in case. 2 copies of your carta de nombramiento. This is your acceptance letter. Background check with the apostille and the translation. An original medical certificate. This varies by consulate, so check your consulate's website for requirements. For example, the New York consulate did not have a template, but I know that there are other consulates. I believe the LA consulate has a specific form that you do need to use. So check your consulate's website to make sure you're using the correct template if they have one for that medical certificate. Your money order, check your consulate's website for pricing. Visa application form. Your proof of health insurance, this is if it's not in your acceptance letter. So for example, the program I came with last year, it was 2 separate documents, so I had to bring the 2 separate documents, but in other programs, it might just be in the 1 document. And if you are able to hand in a prepaid, pre-stamped, and addressed envelope to have them ship your passport back to you, you're going to want to have that as well. Quick pause here. Super exciting news. I've created an Aux in Spain online course for all auxiliares coming over to teach English in Spain. Doesn't matter which program you're in. And hopefully helpful information for you. I know when I first came over, back in 2012, it was a little overwhelming to try to find all of the information about the residency requirements and apartment hunting and money and budgeting, and then figuring out the phone plans, and then figuring out, health insurance and all of these things. While the information is out there, I was spending hours kind of on the different forums and in the different groups. And so I created this online course again with the hopes of putting everything in one place for you. And I'm super excited about it. It goes on sale soon. You can find more at auxinspain.com. So check it out. I also include experiences that I've had across the 4 years of being an Aux in Spain, though I've lived in Spain for 6 years total. So there's a little bit of extra knowledge dropped in there. So yeah, feel free to head over to auxinspain.com, check it out. Get on that email list so you'll be the first to know once it's live, along with some special freebies and resources. So yes, head over there when you get a chance. All right, now the background check. Okay, this is the first document that you are going to want to apply for because it takes the longest to acquire. 6 to 8 weeks for the federal. This is as of very recently where I checked the FBI website. This is the timeline that they're giving. Now, the background check is only valid for 3 to 6 months, depending on your consulate. So check your consulate for how long they deem the background check is valid for. And keep this in mind when you're beginning to gather your documents. I think we're already kind of entering summer right now as I record this video. So I think most of you should be safe in terms of applying for that background check around now. And as of 2024, the last I heard, all consulates are requiring the FBI background check. I put this in as a note because, again, I did the process in 2023, and I was allowed to use a state background check for the New York consulate. But yes, the last I heard, as of 2024, all consulates are requiring the FBI background check. Again, check your consulate's website just to confirm. The apostille is required for all background checks, and it's an international notarization, which will be attached to your original background check. Do not remove it. I know this seems like common sense, but when you're making photocopies, it's a little difficult. So, you might be tempted to kind of separate the pages a little bit. Don't do it, because as soon as you remove it, it's not valid. And translations. Most consulates require the background check to be translated. Again, check your consulate's website to confirm. And I'll touch on this again in the quick tips, but for the LA consulate, they have a list of sworn translators that they are requiring people to use. So make sure you follow up on that. All right, now filling out the visa application. I've taken some screenshots here. I'm not going to walk through it. I think it's pretty straightforward. So I'll just kind of move through the slides. Again, pause the video if you need to figure out, what goes where. All right, and then once you get to the end, super important, sign and date your application. Again, it seems simple, but it's something that's very easy to forget. All right, and here we are now at the quick tips section. So, as I said before, do not book your flight to Spain until you have received your visa. Trust me, I have been tempted. Last year in 2023, I was so tempted to book a flight before I had my passport. Don't do it. I know it's hard. I know it's stressful. I couldn't book my flight until 3 weeks before I had to leave. It was, I was on edge. I get it. But you don't want to do it because you never know what's going to happen, if something's going to be delayed, if, I don't know, you get it a couple of days later and then you're expecting, or a week later. Obviously, hopefully that doesn't happen and everything goes on time and smoothly, but you just never know. Do not plan international travel during the visa application process. Again, I have been here. My friends wanted to go to Mexico about a month before I was set to leave, And I was supposed to get my visa a day before they flew out. And I was so tempted. I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can go to the consulate, pick up my visa on a Thursday, and then fly out the following Friday to Mexico. I was very tempted, but in the end, I did not do it. It's better for it because it can be very, very stressful. So you're going to want to stay put domestically while you're kind of undergoing and navigating the visa application process. All right, be sure to keep in mind expiration dates when requesting documents and appointments. So again, that background check is valid for 3 to 6 months. Check your consulate's website to confirm. And also keep in mind that the student visa is only valid for 90 days. So I say this for people maybe in upcoming years, but if you apply for the student visa too early, then that makes things a little bit tricky, right? Because again, you've only got those 3 months where it's valid in order to do your residency process when you arrive in Spain. So you don't want to be in a situation where you apply for your student visa too early and then it expires too close to the time that you're getting to Spain. Make at least 2 photocopies of every document. Again, be careful not to remove the apostille from your background check. Why 2 photocopies? Various reasons. I mean, things get lost in the mail, just stuff happens. And then when you go to these appointments, sometimes I find that they'll be like, oh, no, I don't need that document. But then they'll ask, oh, well, actually, yeah, I do need that document. And so you always want to make sure that you've got extra copies on hand. Also, this is in case things get lost, because this has happened to me. My state background check disappeared. It disappeared somewhere. The office said they never received it in order for it to be notarized, and it put me back a few weeks, which was really stressful. In the end, they found it, thankfully. And it's not to say that offices will kind of accept photocopies, especially if you're talking about the apostille, etc. But for me, it's more of a confirmation that you actually had it, so that, if it does happen, if it is the case where something gets lost, you can email them a photocopy and say, hey, this is proof that I sent it to you. This is proof that I had it. What can you do to help me accelerate the process if I need to reapply again, for instance? Okay, so it's always good to have extra photocopies. The medical certificate. Again, you want to check your consulate's website for a template. Be sure to also check requirements for the medical professional. So, for example, in New York, and I had to deal with this again in 2023, it was very challenging. My medical certificate was signed by a DO. And the consulate does not accept that. They only accept it if it's signed by an MD, not a DO, not an NP, not a PA. In fact, I had both. I had a PA and a DO sign it, and still the consulate was like, nope, it has to be signed by an MD. And so I was scrambling at the last minute to try to find an MD to sign my form, even after I had already done my medical exams, etc. Luckily, I was able to find one who was like chill about it. But just to save you the headache, make sure you're checking those requirements through your consulate's website and getting ahead of that. Okay, so next, you want to check carefully if any of your documents need to be notarized. So this happened to me again in 2023, where the program that I came through told me that my state background check did not need to be notarized. And so I sent it straight for the apostille, but then it was sent back to me and they told me that it did have to be notarized. So that sent me back weeks. Again, very stressful. So check your consulate's website, check to see what has to be notarized. Make sure you're getting that done. And yes, again, the note, documents will be returned to you. Keep them. You're going to need them for when you apply for residency in Spain. And my last tip, I didn't put it on here, but I kind of briefly touched upon it in the document section. Make sure you get tracking numbers for everything. So when you are mailing documents to any office for any reason, get a tracking number on it. Okay, this will help you in case things get lost. This will help you in terms of timelines. Okay, you just want to make sure that you got that tracking number so you can email it to the office if they've lost it or they can't find it, etc. Tracking numbers are your best friend. All right, and here we go. So I've got some links here for the consulates, as well as links for the background check, the apostille requests, and the translation services. Again, you can see that the LA has a use of, requires the use of their sworn translators. Now, I know obviously you can't click through these links on the video, so what I've done is I've converted them into PDFs. So there are two different PDFs, one for the US consulates and one for the bonus links. Make sure you get on that email subscription list and they will be waiting for you in your inbox. And again, you'll get notifications and updates about everything. I've got everything from Aux interviews to a vlog about my personal experience and other free resources, in addition to news about that exciting, thrilling online course for any Aux in Spain. All right, and that's about it. I hope that this was helpful, and hasta la próxima. Ciao.